What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home? A very good evening and welcome to Weekend Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Multiple areas experience heavy showers. Landslide warnings issued for the Badulla and Kegol districts. Hike in dengue and rat fever cases. Health authorities issue warnings. Inflation drops sharply in April 2023. Where does Sri Lanka stand in terms of domestic debt restructuring?
මේ වෙනකොටම අපේ නීති උපදේශකයන් සහ මූල්‍ය උපදේශකයන් ඒ කටයුතු සිදු කරමින් පවතිනවා.
අර්ථසාධකරුන්ට මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා කිව්වේ නැහැ. පාර්ලිමේන්තුව අපි දැක්කේ විගණම.
Where did Gota's government go wrong? State Minister Siripala Gamla explains.
අපි දේශපාලනය නොකරපු නායකයෙක් ගත් එකේ වැරද්දක් අපේ තියෙනවා.
SJB to take action against MP Fauzi for voting in favour of the IMF resolution.
Landslide warnings have been issued to 2 districts due to heavy showers. The Met Department predicts heavy showers above 100 millimeters for several areas across Sri Lanka.
The National Building Research Organisation issued landslide warnings to Haldumulla in the Badulla district and Kegol Divisional Secretariat in the Kegol district. People in these areas have been advised to be cautious of possible landslide and ground subsidence. The Biyagama Kaduwela Road, Navagamua Kaduwela Road and surrounding areas were inundated due to heavy showers on Saturday evening. The Vaveladeniya Viharasthana Mawata in Kegol was also inundated on Saturday evening. Our correspondent reported vehicular movement in the area was hampered due to heavy showers. This was the situation in Gaul and Panudara on Saturday evening. The Met Department predicts thunder showers above 100 millimeters in most parts of the island on Saturday night. The Met Department warned that thunder showers are likely to occur. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa central, northwestern and southern provinces. Showers above 75 millimeters can be expected in other areas. The Met Department requests the public to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. Health sectors are warning of a high risk of the spread of leptospirosis, also known as rat fever, due to heavy showers across Sri Lanka. The epidemiology unit said that 2,500 cases of rat fever were reported so far in 2023. Majority of the cases were reported from the Ratnapura, Gaul and Kegol districts. 229 cases and 19 deaths due to rat fever were reported in Gaul and Mathura districts in the southern province.
කුඹුරේ බැහැලා වැඩ කරන ගොවි මහත්තුරුන්ට පමණක්ම නෙවෙයි මේ රෝගය.
The farmers aren't the only group at risk of being infected by rat fever. Those engaged in the construction industry, refuse collectors, tea and cinnamon cultivators and even school students are at high risk. If your day-to-day activities involve working with waste or unhygienic substances, then you can be at risk of being infected with rat fever.
ඕනෑම කාර්යයක් හෝ රැකියාවක් ඔබ කරන්නේ නම් ඔබ මීඋණ රෝගයට ගොදුරු වීමේ ඉහළ අවදානමක් දරනවා.
How does rat fever spread?
මීඋණ රෝගය වැළඳීමෙන් වැළකී සිටීම සඳහා ඔබ
Doxycycline can be used to treat rat fever if taken with proper medical advice.
මාත්‍රාව අනුව ලබා ගැනීම තුළින් මේ රෝගයෙන් බේරී ඉන්නට පුළුවන්.
What is the probability of a hike in dengue cases?
55 MOH divisions across 15 districts have been declared as high-risk zones. According to the latest report issued by the National Dengue Control Unit, Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara, Kandy, Matale, Hambantota, Gaul and Mathura districts have been declared as high-risk zones. MOH divisions in the Jaffna, Batiklo, Trincomalee, Puthlam, Kurunegala, Kegol and Ratnapura districts have also been declared as high-risk zones. 15 people have died due to dengue so far in 2023, while 29,000 dengue infections were reported. Majority of the cases, that is 49%, were reported from the western province.
News first with the people.
Headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index, decreased to 35.3% in April 2023 from 50.3% in March 2023.
According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the lower level of realized inflation compared to the projections made was mainly due to higher than expected price decreases observed in volatile food and non-food items. The food inflation decreased to 30.6% in April 2023 from 47.6% in March 2023. The non-food inflation decreased to 37.6% in April 2023 from 51.7% in March 2023. Monthly change of CCPI recorded at negative 1.39% in April 2023, which is the highest monthly decline recorded so far in CCPI series. This decrease was mainly due to price decreases observed in the items of non-food category, which was negative 1.37%. In the meantime, the food category also recorded a monthly decline of 0.02%. The core inflation, which reflects the underlying inflation in the economy, decreased to 27.8% in April 2023 from 39.1% in March 2023. According to the central bank, looking ahead, based on the available information, the anticipated declining trend of inflation is expected to continue through 2023, bringing down the prevailing high inflation towards single-digit levels by late 2023. This disinflation process is supported by subdued aggregate demand owing to tight monetary and fiscal policy measures, normalization of supply conditions both globally and domestically, greater pass-through of lower global commodity prices, along with the favorable statistical base effect.
Against the backdrop of the central bank's plan to bring down inflation towards single-digit levels by late 2023, views are being expressed over the International Monetary Fund's condition on domestic debt restructuring. Has a decision been reached on domestic debt restructuring?
The
next step would be to come into an agreement on domestic debt restructuring. We are still discussing with our bilateral creditors. As of now, we have not made a final decision on domestic debt restructuring. Our legal advisors and financial advisors are working on this. In this restructuring process, the stability of the financial system of the country, the stability of the banking system, and especially the stability of the EPF will not be affected.
How will the restructuring of domestic debt affect the people? The Economic Council of the Jatika Jana Balawegya raised these questions on Saturday.
Now there
is a discussion on what is happening to the Employee Provident Fund, what is happening to the interest revenue. The money of the depositors in the banks has been invested more. They didn't talk about it. They never said what is happening to the EPF. The Ranil Wickremesinghe government only wanted to submit this agreement to Parliament and then put the seal on it, saying that it was discussed. It was not discussed in Parliament how these targets will be reached. We have to borrow $10 billion. We need to lose $14 billion in debt. In these 3 days, Ranil Wickremesinghe must tell Parliament how he expects to do this in the next 4 years. But that didn't happen. Why did that not happen? We clearly see that Ranil's plan is to show unrealistic targets and deceive the people of the country. At the end, by 2028, we have to repay $27.5 billion. We can only pay $13.8 billion. After all this, the leader will say that they had nothing else to do. The same people who said we shouldn't go to the IMF are now worshipping the IMF. That is the state we are in. That is what was apparent in Parliament.
Speaking at the UNP head office, senior advisor to the President on National Security and Chief of Staff of the President, Sagala Ratnayaka, commented on re-stabilizing the economy.
ආර්ථික වශයෙන් රට කඩා වැටුණ අවස්ථාවක තමයි ඒ කඩා වැටීම.
We are at a juncture where we are recovering the economy from the abyss it was in. If we went to the IMF at the first instance, we would not feel so much pressure. Now the pressure has been somewhat lifted, giving us an opportunity to achieve economic growth by stabilizing the economy. The President has spoken about the difficulties that arise when taking the necessary steps to achieve economic growth at many instances. He has addressed Parliament and the people regarding it. In all these instances, the President has been very transparent in explaining the steps we will be taking, the challenges that arise with it, but also the benefits and economic growth that we can expect in these long-term solutions.
සහනය සහ ඇතිවෙන වේගවත් ආර්ථික වර්ධනය පිළිබඳව එතුමා පැහැදිලි කළ දීලා.
MP Dallas Salaha Perumo of the Freedom People's Alliance commented on the IMF agreement and Sri Lanka's economic situation.
They completely changed the purpose of Parliament yesterday. They had signed the agreement, agreed to all conditions and then held a nominal vote for the sake of it. Even if the resolution was not passed in Parliament, all the arrangements to implement the resolution were made. It isn't wrong to seek the IMF assistance. It is wrong to bow down to all their conditions. Our economy, national identity, national freedom and national resources are to be mortgaged for money. We oppose this.
The Samagi Jana Balavege has decided to take disciplinary action against MP AHM Fauzi for voting in favour of the resolution for the implementation of the arrangement under the Extended Fund Facility of the IMF for Sri Lanka in Parliament on Friday.
As a party, the Samagi Jana Balavege and the Samagi Jana Alliance decided to boycott the vote. But SJB MP AHM Fauzi voted in favour of the resolution. This means he has voted against the party's decision. We have decided to launch a disciplinary inquiry into this and take action to remove him from the SJB.
Gate 0 of the Aragalaya held a press conference today. Views were expressed on the book 9, The Hidden Story, launched by MP Vimal Veeravansa.
Vimal Veeravansa has launched a book called 9, The Hidden Story. We would like to ask Vimal if he was hiding at Golf Face for at least a day. Who was with you at the time of the launch? The former acting Chinese ambassador.
Golf Face එක ඇංගිලා හිටියද කියලා අපි අහන්න ඕනේ දවසක් හරි Golf Face එක ඇවිල්ලා හිටියද කියලා විමලගෙන් අපි අහනවා. ඔයා ඔය පොත රිලීස් කරද්දි කවුද එතන වාඩි වෙලා හිටියේ ඉස්සරහා?
Vimal is a joke to us. Back in the day they escaped saying they need to get out before Gota leaves. I started my fight the day I called out Basil Rajapaksa, calling him the ugly American. Now we are going to restart our fight with China again. We won't get caught to this. Neither will the people of Sri Lanka.
කියනවා අව ලස්සන ඇමරිකානුවා කියලා ගැහුවා කාටද? අපි අහුවෙන්නේ නැහැ. රටේ ජනතාව අහුවෙන්නෙත් නැහැ.
අප්‍රේල් 9 ඉඳලා ජූලි 9 වෙනකම් මැයි 9 වෙනිදා වෙනකොට හැංගිලෙන්දපු විමල් වීරවංශ ඔබතුමා වගේ
Vimal Veeravansa was in hiding from the 9th of April to the 9th of July. You were in hiding on the 9th of May. How can such a person criticize the Aragalaya? This is a malicious attempt to ruin the impression of the Aragalaya among the people. This is a conspiracy. I don't think people will fall for this. They are trying to use all these factors to once again create a pro-Rajapaksa regime.
මම හිතන්නේ මිනිස්සු අහුවේ කියලා. තුම මේ උලුප්පල ආය ආගම ඇදලා ඔය මේ ඉන්න ආගමික නායකවරු අරගෙන ආයේ මේ රාජපක්ෂවාදයකට වගේ තමයි මේ හැදෙන්නේ.
State Minister Siripala Gamlat has highlighted that in Aragalaya rose because Sri Lanka was led by someone who lacked political experience and was challenged by politicians who were unable to come into power and were trying to use the situation to benefit them. He made these comments during an event to hand over deeds to landowners via the National Housing Development Authority in the Polonnaruwa district.
The idea to ban chemical fertilizer was done with good intentions, but we knew that it wasn't practical. Although he made decisions with good intentions, they were not practical. So it was our fault to bring in a leader who lacked political experience. We went wrong because we tried to follow the footsteps of a leader who lacked political experience. I don't believe that we went wrong elsewhere. People who have never come into power after stance that they can use this opportunity to benefit them.
A protest was held today at the Kilinochchi town demanding the anti-terrorism bill to be withdrawn immediately.
A group of journalists, relatives of missing persons and civil society representatives joined this protest.
Issues will arise that will obstruct the independent functioning of the media industry. That is a massive threat. When this law is enacted, it will be a huge threat to democracy. Our kin in the north and east were the most affected in the country by the Prevention of Terrorism Act. This is an attempt to bring back the oppression forward again with a more repressive set of rules. We invite all progressive groups in the south to join the people in the north and east to create a united Aragalaya and defeat these draconian laws.
The Tamil National People's Front stressed that Sri Lanka does not require the Anti-Terror Act and labelled it a suppressive act.
Anti-terrorism panata viruddha wenna one.
Everyone is of the stance that the Anti-Terrorism Act must be opposed. There is no doubt in that. The Prevention of Terrorism Act must also be opposed, but there is no agreement on what needs to be introduced instead. We are in the position that no such bill is needed. All of the regulations in the ATA can be done via an emergency law. Parliament has the right to oppose the government if it is going against the law. When the Public Security Ordinance is implemented in a manner in which the democracy is protected, we strongly believe that there is no need to introduce a new act. The other parties are yet to express their stance in public.
ඒ ගැන අනිත් පාර්ශ්වයන්ගේ පැහැදිලිතාවය අද වෙනතුරු එලිතරව් කරලා නැහැ.
The United Centenary Front was launched in anticipation of a new generation political approach for a sustainable solution to the crisis faced by Sri Lanka. The political movement was launched today at the Sugatadass Stadium.
The United Centenary Front is being launched following extensive public awareness, in-depth political analysis and comprehensive surveys covering all 25 districts over a period of 4 years. They plan to rebuild the nation through many objectives such as economic revitalization, introducing new technologies to several fields including agriculture and reforming the economy.
We are beginning to doubt our own mentality after building false hopes over the same political culture for the past 75 years. We need to stop that. So many people thought this can't be done. But the people are now starting to discard that thought and believe it must be done. I believe you are here with us today because you are of the same stance as well. We don't need an election to prove this. We are going to change the things around. People have suffered enough. We aren't the slaves of politicians anymore. We are going to build our country.
What we need is integrity, competent leadership, compassion, the right intent and a vision to turn Sri Lanka into a healthy country that is productive and content instead of a nation that is burdened by illness.
Our agribusiness sector, we talk of our farmers, the farmers being the base of our society. Incredible potential. But what are we sending out of this country? What are we exporting? There's a strong entrepreneurial spirit in Sri Lanka. We continue to exploit our beaches and our cultural triangle when we haven't even recognized that the world is looking for the authentic experiences that we have. There's no vision, there's no political will, there's inconsistency in policy making, there's bureaucracy, there's corruption, and that is the reason that there is no growth.
For far too long, the primary objective of our state has not been the well-being of its people, but rather the self-interest of its politicians. To bring about true development and prosperity, we must transform our political system. The United Centenary Front seeks to reduce the power of politicians and empower you, the people, to hold our elected representatives accountable. Our vision is a Sri Lanka that stands as a generous nation, lending support to others instead of relying on debt.
Artists and other experts were among the attendees at the launch.
During a raid conducted the day before yesterday in Vallampite area, about 1,080 metric tons of rice unsuitable for consumption was discovered in a large-scale rice warehouse.
The store was sealed following an investigation carried out based on a complaint received via telephone to the Gotatua MOH office on Thursday. Our correspondent reported that insects, worms and maggots were found in the rice at this warehouse. Following a court case, officers from the Gotatua MOH office collected samples of the rice on Saturday morning.
We have
now identified this as a stock of rice imported from India. This much damage has been caused due to issues in storage. This rice has been imported using foreign exchange. This cost the country a huge amount of rupees. This is a national waste. We urge the business community in Sri Lanka to take necessary advice from us on proper storage guidelines. We can act in collaboration and make sure that problems like this won't happen again.
The Consumer Affairs Authority seized a stock of eggs that was not for sale from a store in Hettipola, Kurunegala on Saturday. Our correspondent reported that about 50,000 eggs were stored.
Our undercover agent requested 50 eggs for cash. At that moment, they said they don't sell eggs and they won't sell just 50 eggs to a person. Then we arrived and checked the warehouse. We discovered a massive stock of eggs. Possession without sale is an offense. They can't do that. They must sell eggs to whoever. They can't base their sale on a person's social status, their mutual closeness or personal grounds. The sale must happen.
Army Commander General Vikum Lienage invited the wives of late war heroes, Lieutenant General Denzel Kobak and Major General Vijay Vimalratna, to the Army headquarters today. Lali Kobak, the wife of Lieutenant General Denzel Kobak and Manil Vimalratna, the wife of Major General Vijay Vimalratna, who made the ultimate sacrifice for the country during the war, were felicitated with great honor at the Army headquarters.
Lali Kobakadua and Manil Vimalratna were received by the Army Commander at the Army headquarters with the highest honours.
The book signing ceremony of An Island's 11, A History of Cricket in Sri Lanka by renowned author Nicholas Brooks was held in Colombo earlier today.
An Island's 11 takes an in-depth look into the history of cricket in Sri Lanka. It focuses on the characters and moments that have shaped the game forever. The author of the book, Nicholas Brooks, says it took him more than 3 years to complete his research.
Yesterday, Sri Lanka completed its 100th Test win against Ireland. When it comes to cricket, in Sri Lanka, the possibilities are endless. An Island's 11 by Nicholas Brooks documents the history of this great sport dating back to the 1800s.
So I grew up in the 1990s when, Sri Lanka were on top of the world, and so I think they were just a very attractive, dynamic team to watch. They were playing cricket in a different way to everyone else. They were hugely exciting, and in my mind as a kid, I thought they were the biggest team in world cricket, and it was only when I became an adult that I discovered that they only got Test status in 1981, that they'd been one of the smaller nations up until 1996, and that there was this whole kind of history stretching back to the 1800s up till 1981, which really hadn't been very well told and was kind of under threat of disappearing and needed to be explored a little bit more. So it's a whole history of Sri Lankan cricket going back from the 1830s to 2014. It focuses kind of on the characters and the moments who've shaped the game, what's made Sri Lanka such a unique, powerful cricket nation, and lots of the stories, a bit of the socio-political context about what cricket means to Sri Lanka, why it's this thing which carries a real national appeal, and why it's so loved across the island.
Prominent officials attached to the sport also attended the event.
Well, I think documenting the history is always so important. It's important for the future generation so that they will know. I mean, if history is not documented, how would you know? I mean, what this book has done Nicholas's book, and Islands 11 is an amazing story because it tells you, it also tells you how he fell in love, how he was at St. Thomas's College, how he was there and he watched cricket, and then his passion for the game. And I think he's documented some wonderful stories which should be read. I was personally very, very fascinated reading this book. So it is, answering your question, it's very important.
It gives you a pride as well what our cricketers had done over the years. In fact, this book is about, it's going back 190 years to 1870 odd, when cricket first was started in Sri Lanka. So I think books have done an excellent job.
This is a good opportunity for young and old to read about what is happening in cricket, the beginning of cricket, of the series, and also what you can get out of reading the book. And Nick is a quite famous writer. He has traveled to so many countries in the world.
And Islands 11 received the Cricket Society and MCC Book of the Year Award 2023 and the Wisdom Book of the Year Award.
Day 22 of the LOLC Divisabi Program was held centering the Jaffna district. The LOLC Divisabi Program is launched to lend a helping hand to students who are the future of Sri Lanka. Under the Divisabi program, books and stationery items were provided to school students from the most economically challenged parts of Sri Lanka. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. Under the Divisabi program, books and stationery items were provided to students at the Nirvali CCTMS Vidyalaya, Iruppalai CCTMS Vidyalaya, Kadiripai Subramaniam Vidyalaya, and Kopai South RCTM Vidyalaya. Books and stationery items were provided to students of the Toppu Arulnathan Vidyalaya, Valalai AMTM Vidyalaya, and Puttur Madihe Panna Siha Vidyalaya. Another Divisabi team distributed books and stationery items to several other schools in the Jaffna education zone. The LOLC Divisabi program will press on in their endeavour to support the education of these children. In news overseas, the second batch of 6 Sri Lankans have been evacuated from Sudan. The Embassy of Sri Lanka in Saudi Arabia tweeted that the group arrived at the King Faisal Naval Base in Jeddah on Friday. In the latest developments, one of Sudan's dueling generals who leads the paramilitary force fighting the country's army has told the BBC he will not negotiate until fighting ends.
General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo said his fighters were being relentlessly bombed since a 3-day truce had been extended. He said, quote-unquote, "We don't want to destroy Sudan," blaming Army Chief General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan for the violence. General Burhan has tentatively agreed to face-to-face talks in South Sudan. Thursday night's extension of an uneasy ceasefire followed intensive diplomatic efforts by neighbouring countries as well as the US, UK and UN. Speaking to the BBC by phone, Hemeti said he was open to talks, but the condition was that the ceasefire should cease hostilities, and after that we can have negotiations. Hamdit's comment to BBC comes as millions remain trapped in the capital Khartoum, where there are shortages of food, water and fuel. The AFP reported in some parts of the city, trenches have been dug as rival troops battle each other, street by street.
And now some sports news from the 89th Battle of the Saints.
The 89th Battle of the Saints played between St. Peter's College Bambalapitiya and St. Joseph's College Maradana ended in a draw today. Batting first at the SSC grounds in Colombo, St. Peter's College were bowled out for 214 runs, with Chamidu Pereira becoming the highest scorer with 66 runs. As for St. Joseph's, Gagan Chamod bagged 5 wickets for 69 runs. Due to the heavy showers, the match ended in a draw with St. Joseph's on 240 for the loss of 2 wickets and Sadish Jayawardena at the crease on 110.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Do take care and good night.